Black lives matter worldwide till the end of time. We rising up, can't nobody stop us. The love we got's colossal. We rising up, white supremacy, your throne's about to topple. We rising up.
When a student is having behavioral challenges, we have step processes, and we really look at not only just the behavior, but we have to look at the reasons behind the behavior. So before we even get to the consequence stage, we really want to talk to the student and see what things we can put in place. So if it's something that the student is anxious and they feel like they need to walk out of class, then we try to work with them and develop a plan that they're allowed to go to a safe space. And then we have to teach them how to utilize that safe space. So whether that's, do you need to listen to calming music? You can get online and watch a girl empowerment video. And then what that does is that trains our girls to de-escalate. And then they come back and they say, I'm ready to go back to class, and they're fine. And so when typically walking out of class would be an infraction that would give them an after-school detention or a suspension, now they come and they figure out how to solve their own challenges or reach out with an adult and come up with a plan that helps them manage their emotions. And so within that, our discipline rate has decreased significantly because we're actually finding solutions and we're recognizing what the challenge is, and the students can recognize it. So before they become disrespectful, they just simply ask to remove themselves. And so it's been a great paradigm shift for our students at our school to learn how to manage their emotions. So one of the things that we looked at was suspension and what causes it. And we, as a staff, read the book, Push Out, and we were just very inspired by it. And what kind of changes could we make? Because we recognized a lot of the behaviors that the young ladies in the book described. And so we talked about, we're not going to discipline for attitude. So when you're telling the narrative as a teacher, when you're describing the rolling of the eyes and things that aren't necessarily consequential, then we just need to talk about what's the root, what was the infraction, and then how can we help the student. And so with that, it's helped the rapport with the teachers, because now the students feel like they have a voice and that you don't get derailed into the main issue, because then you want to talk about tone and rolling eyes. But you can model that and you can use a different time for that. So one of the things that we do is when a student has a conflict with a teacher, there's a peace circle. And so they can come down to an administrator, and the teacher and the student, we have an item, ours is a pink flower, and you hold the flower when you want to talk, and then you can work out what the issues are, and you could talk about tone, and you could talk about intention. And so a lot of that comes out, the students then feel safe, and they feel that they can express themselves safely. And so then it doesn't become conflict, and it doesn't carry on to the next day, and they don't feel like there's retaliation because they spoke out to the teacher. So the peace circles have been very helpful for us as well. So we have what we call level 1 behaviors, where it's minor classroom infractions. And so we, gave the students the information of the different levels of what will, you'll have the conversation with your teacher, you'll have the conversation with the principal, or, we have to go to a different level and have it, with the school district. And then from that point with the teachers, we also explain if it's a level 1, then I expect you as the educator and the professional to be able to solve the issue with the student. If it's level 2, I expect you to try to resolve it, then work with a parent, and then you can inform the office of what action you've taken. And then if that doesn't work, then it'll come to the level where you speak with an administrator. So one of the things, we have an advisory program. So every day for 30 minutes, the students are in advisory, and we pick different topics. And so those topics deal with things that you would, as a young lady, come into contact with or may have a challenge. So we've done school violence, we've done self-esteem, we've done girl empowerment. So we pick different topics. And so this is a time when students can express themselves with those things. And so through that, they're able to reflect. So reflection is a big piece as well. And so every Wednesday they write in a journal, and I give them a quote of the week. And based off of that quote is what they write about. And one thing that we know about girls is that journaling is a very effective way to communicate. And so if you see a student that's escalated, don't try to solve the problem with her right then and there. Have her journal about it, and then have a discussion. And so that too helps with that de-escalation piece as well. And so we just purchase journals for every student in the building. They all have them. They're all housed in their advisories. The students can get them at any time. They could journal. I have a lot of girls who will ask to share their journal during our morning salute that we have every morning before we start school. There's students that are having consistent challenges during our teacher-based team meetings. We have to discuss those students, and then on Thursdays are our student and teacher days, and the students actually come and sit down with the teachers and they review your behavior performance, your academic performance. How can we help you? What do you need from us? And then we check back with them in 2 to 3 weeks. They can earn a reward. They pick their reward. And so then it seems like, again, goes back to that partnership that we're all in it together. And so if it's repetitive, they go to, we don't call it in-school suspension. We just say that you'll report to the student center. And in the student center, we have all the academic resources. They have their schoolwork. They have access to computers. They sit and check in with the administrators. We go in and talk to them. They receive one-on-one learning. Teachers will come down and work with them one-on-one. Out-of-school suspension for us is really acts of violence. So one of the things, so if you have a physical altercation and you fail to let an adult know, that's pretty much when you'll receive an out-of-school suspension. So students and parents are both aware of our procedures for that. So all I ask is that you give an adult a chance to intervene. And that way, if the behavior doesn't stop after a student comes to an adult and the adult intervenes, then I can look at the case in a different light and say, now you're defending yourself, as opposed to you coming with your side and their side, and then I have to be a judge or jury on who's telling the truth. So I tell them I don't do that. So we have pink harassment forms that they can fill out and just put in our mailbox, and we know because they're pink that we need to get to them by the end of the day. They're priority, so if a student feels like they're being harassed or bullied, they can fill out that form. If they let an adult know first, 9 times out of 10, we catch it before it becomes a real issue because the girls are able to talk it out. So one of the things that we've done with teachers to help them better understand, the needs of our African American young ladies and our students is that we do, I do teacher surveys for my students, and I ask very pointed questions. How is my tone in the classroom? Do I have an inviting classroom? And so I think when teachers get that feedback, sometimes it stings a little. Because you don't think that's your perception, because when you have compliant children, you think that's a sign of affirmation, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just being compliant. Then you have to reflect and say, am I teaching from a perspective that my students understand? If we're saying that our children are low on vocabulary and experiences and that's why they're not doing well on standardized tests, how do you introduce that culture to our children? Because it now becomes our job. And so when you have teachers actively working through development, and we meet 4 times a week for 45 minutes every day. So we have those discussions based on the needs and what we see in the building. Then you start the discussions, and then the teachers then have a different perspective, and then, they have that motivation to really want to be inclusive. I have my funding, which is Title I funding mostly, and we have general funds. I use it 100% for teachers and students. And so if a teacher is saying, I want to learn more, and I want to change my curriculum, I don't have time during the school day, then I will take that funding and I'll provide extended time learning opportunities for those teachers. So every summer I give 25 hours for them to plan in the summer, to change their practices, anything that they want to do that is better for our students. And so if you want to we had a teacher take our students to a Black Girls Think Tank, and it was on a Saturday. So I can then show my appreciation by offering you a stipend for taking children on your own time. And so I try to complement what their salary is, because I ask a lot of my teachers, right? This takes work, it takes reflection, it takes time, it takes changing sometimes in the middle of a lesson. And so I just try to show the teachers that I appreciate them and give back to them in the ways that I can give back to them.